Hello, Podwalkers, and welcome back to the Goblin Lore Podcast. We've been away for a little while, kind of had some stuff, and that's what today's episode is about. We're going to kind of just give everybody a state of the cast. So one of the things that you're going to notice is that we are a person down. We are a person short on the cast now. So I'm going to introduce myself, throw it over to my co-host, and we're going to kind of give you guys just a rundown of kind of what's been going on the last month or two and kind of what our plans are moving forward. So I am Hobbs Q. Preferred pronouns are he and him, and I can be found on Twitter at Hobbs Q.
And I'm Alex Newman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm found on Twitter at Mel_chronicler.
So as you could tell, we do not have Joe with us. Joe Redeman, he has decided to step away from Magic, actually, in general. This is not kind of a stepping away from the podcast or stepping away from us as friends. This is stepping away from Magic, due in part to kind of recent lore direction and direction that the story is taken and kind of how it's been handled. We have made the decision that we believe that this is kind of something that we want to continue and something that we are going to kind of continue to do. And so, yeah, that's what we're kind of here for, is to talk about how that's going to look.
Yeah, at this point, we haven't posted an episode for a little while. We're going to probably take a little bit longer to get back to a regular schedule. We have recorded some stuff. We've got some things ready to go. But with someone stepping away, and unfortunately, Joe did a lot of the technical stuff, so we're learning, and he's, been very gracious and offering to do some help with stuff. But and we've got some offers from people who are going to help, which is wonderful. But for the time being, we're taking some steps to. It's going to take us a little while to get back up to speed, but we're hoping we'll get this episode up to give everyone, just to let you know where we are, and hopefully we'll have some episodes coming irregularly for a little while and until we get a good schedule in place.
So part of what it is that Alex and I really want to make sure that when we come back, the show is going to look and sound a little different. We know that that's going to be, but we believe that the overall kind of what made Goblin Lore Podcast the Goblin Lore Podcast is still going to continue. Discussions about the community, mental health, psychology, kind of the whole gamut of things that we covered between the real world, the lore, tying it together. We have concerns about the story and how it's been handled. And I would say that, Joe was a lot more of kind of even in some ways our story expert, especially for some of the past stuff. We may fumble a little bit, so we are recognizing that up front. We do have concerns, like we said, too, about some of the stuff that was handled, especially with the Chandra and Nissa story, which I think kind of ended up being, in some ways, the final thing for Joe, given other stuff that had happened kind of in the last year with Magic Story. So because of that, we may have less direct lore tie-ins every week, even though this will still be kind of a real-world meets Magic podcast.
Yeah,
do you think it's fair to say?
I think that's fair to say, and I know for me, I was guessing you've been doing the same thing over this last month or two, just really kind of assessing where you're at with the game and where you're at with the cast and kind of what was important to you. And I realized that, I really like the story, and I definitely want that to remain an element of this cast. Like, the community is more what's important to me with Magic and with the cast, so I think it's going to be important for us to continue to have the community as a thing, talking, real world advice, and have that good handoff at the end of the episode, some stuff you can walk away with, and that's really important to me. Along with the story stuff and some of the other, goofiness that we like to throw in there too.
Yeah, I mean, we're still going to have profiles in goblins. We're still going to have some sort of the goblin games where we do less serious topics. And, we're still planning on handling topics like suicide and PTSD and the other things that we've been, I think, willing to talk about.
Yeah.
So where we're at right now, we want to be able to be back to consistently putting out a product. We did pause our Patreon service. So we have had that. We were hoping to get our episode out to them first. And we have talked to them. We're kind of keeping the Discord active and going, but we have paused the Patreon for now. We didn't just feel that we really need to be putting out consistent quality content before we would feel comfortable with that up and running again.
Mm-hmm.
We are working with a producer and somebody who has offered to step up and help the cast. I actually did record an episode. I did posted a little bit about it with Hunter Pence that had been kind of in the works for a while, which was kind of a nice getting back into Goblin lore, and we can't wait for you guys to hear that. We plan to have Chase back, and we've talked to her about being kind of a more regular guest as needed, which is something that in the past when we have had her on that actually the cast was, that people were very, seemed very excited about that possibility. So we're looking to do that again.
Yeah, and I'm very glad that she's willing to. She's been busy with all the stuff that she's been doing, and yeah, I'm glad that she's willing to come back. And apparently that means she had fun.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a good experience with this.
That's the impression we've gotten.
Yeah.
As much as we are the ones who are completely feel like imposters, she also does, and it works out pretty perfectly, and we love it. So we have that planned. We actually have a pretty exciting, I'm going to just do a teaser now. We were talking to a big person in the community about a topic specifically about goblins that I think is going to be a great episode. Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to it. So we're planning on coming back with our giveaways. So we do still have our 500 follower giveaway. We're now up over 600, and actually we have 2 full Goblin EDH decks to give away, which is awesome. Yeah. So we just want everybody to kind of keep an ear out for us. We'll be posting on Twitter when things are back up regularly. Like I said, episodes will kind of be trickling in. For now, we're trying to get kind of a backlog going, which is one of the reasons we haven't kind of committed to when we're going to be putting things out. We want to be able to really hit the ground kind of running. Yeah, and we want to make sure we kind of have a handle on things, because it's there's a lot of work to podcasting. An episode or 2 doesn't seem like a lot, but once you start to get schedules and we have to get things on, trying to get back to our weekly schedule, I think is maybe the goal. We'll have to see. Maybe we aren't on a weekly schedule as we get going forward, and that's part of what we have to see as we start to get back after the holidays, because we're just on the other side of New Year's. Christmas and Thanksgiving went by, and lots of things are going on in our lives, and that made it really hard to try to wrangle the podcast and figure out where we were at there.
Yeah.
But now that we're on the other end of all of that, we've been working on it. Hopefully the next few weeks, as things start to take better shape, we'll have a better idea, and we'll let everybody know on Twitter, on the episodes we post potentially, just as we have a better idea of what the plan is.
So, I guess kind of recapping, the cast is here. It is shrunk a little bit, so it's going to be Alex and I predominantly. As we've said, Joe is welcome back at any point. This is not a creative differences or us as people separating ways. We're still hanging out in Minneapolis and doing things. It's just that he has stepped away from Magic, which would make doing the podcast pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get out consistently again. Yeah, I think that's mainly it.
Yeah, I think those are all the big points. If you have questions, hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah,
we have our handles at the top, or I should know the podcast handle off the top of my head, but I don't.
At Goblin Lore Pod.
Thank you, Hobbs, because we are professionals.
We are professionals.
Professionally cover each other when we miss things.
Yeah, that was actually planned. It was in the show notes. I thought you saw it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's difficult. I'm going to admit that it is difficult. Kind of, Joe's the one who kind of wrangled us together in some ways to get us up and running, and
he started the cast talking to us independently. Like, you and I didn't know we were involved until he got the 3 of us all talking together, and
yeah.
So it's been tough to kind of put things back together. Not that there was anything broken or any issues. It's just that for totally understandable reasons, Joe stepped away, and now you and I needed to kind of assess what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And how we wanted to do it. And that's, just a lot of question marks that have to be filled in.
I think what you're saying, it's how more than anything else, because we both pretty quickly said, hey, I want to do this. I want to keep this going. This is important to me. It's a creative outlet for both of us, I believe.
Yes, definitely. But there's a lot of logistics to running something, even as sort of small operation that we had going, and to take out a third of the people working on it and whatever, and we unfortunately didn't have any technical redundancies from training, even though we both said that we were going to learn how to do it, and we kind of neither did.
Yeah.
So we're learning new things, which is good. Ultimately, that's good, even if it's a little bit painful in the short term.
Yeah. We're going to fumble. It's going to, it's kind of funny. It's almost like starting over a new cast with established structure. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting. So, yeah. But thank you all for joining us. And like I said, we'll hopefully be back with longer and more episodes soon. Okay. Once again, I am Hobbs Q. I can be found at Hobbs Q on Twitter. And my co-host is
Alex Newman, found on Twitter at Mel_Chronicler.
Okay. Talk to you all soon. Bye. And that's our show for today. You can find the hosts on Twitter. HobbsQ can be found at HobbsQ, and Alex Newman can be found at Mel_Chronicler. Editing and production was done by Tom Gustafson, who can be found on Twitter at PSGReader. Send any questions, comments, thoughts, hopes, and dreams to @Goblin Lore Pod on Twitter, or email us at goblinlorepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support your friendly neighborhood gobslugs, the cast can be found at patreon.com/goblinlorepod. Opening and closing music by Vindergotten, who can be found on Twitter at Vindergotten or online at vindergotten.bandcamp.com. Logo art by Steven Raphael, who can be found on Twitter at Steve Raffle. Goblin Lore is proud to be presented by Hipsters of the Coast as part of their growing Vorthos content, as well as magic content of all kinds. Check them out on Twitter at HipstersMTG or online at hipstersofthecoast.com. Thank you all for listening, and remember, goblins, like snowflakes, are only dangerous in numbers.